slide. Yes, which is yeah. This is our topic, and we shortly discussed it last week, and now I will repeat for several uh, of them. Uh, our topic is the basic understanding of international law, use Gentium and use Intergentis. It's related to the history of international law. Asike, you can download your book in the My Class web, yeah? You can access My Class, Asike?
I can, sir.
Okay. Uh, in the top or under my photo, you can download the book International Law. So there are two books there. You can download in English.
Okay, sir. I'll do so, sir.
Okay. Uh, okay. This is our discussion last week about international law from Professor Mokhtar Kusuma Atmaja. Professor Mokhtar Kusuma Atmaja, as we know that he was the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia in President Suharto era for 3 year period, and he was also the chairman of the commission on uh, the law of the sea under UN Commission, United Nation Commission. So he was very prominent person in Indonesian studies related to international law. Uh, Professor Muhtar uh, concept uh, conceptualize and make a definition of international law is according to the Professor Mohtar, international law is the overall rules and principles governing relation or issues, yeah, maybe conflict, that cross national boundaries between country by country, state and state. The second, countries with other non-state legal subject, yeah, such as international organization, such as non-governmental organization in international fora. And the third, really after all, non-state legal subject each other in the area of public law, international public law. So there are three subjects in this category. Firstly, state and state. The second, state and non-state actor or subject. And the third, non-state subject each other. So what kind of non-state actor subject we will discuss next. So there are many or several non-state subject in international law that recognize legally in international law as the subject of international law. So not all of international non-state legal subject recognized as legal subject in international law. Only uh, non-legal subject that meet the categories in under international law principles. Okay, the approach in these international law studies is modern approach. It's mean that the actors not only state and state or government and government, but all entities possessing international personality. What's the meaning of international personality? It is really not person, people, individual, no, but uh, it's translated from a Dutch word, uh, rechtpersonen. Rechtpersonen mean uh, institution or person or organization that legally under international criteria uh, stand as the subject of international law. So the entities or organization that meet the criteria, all of the criterias, they get position as personality in the field of international law. In the Dutch term, it is rechtspersonen, or the subject of international law. So personality here is not person as a human, no, but the status or legal standing in international law process. Okay, and yeah, historically, international law we discussed today refer to the old history of Ius Gentium and Ius Intergentis in Roman Empire. Yeah. As I stated last week, that history or world history always written by the winner of the last war. One again that uh, the color of the world history always paint or written by the winner of the last world war. And the last world war, the World War II, uh, the winner was American and European countries as alike. And they have heritage from Roman history. They refer to democracy, liberalism, individualism, and also in international law, they have a legacy from Roman Empire, what they call as Ius Gentium. Ius Gentium. Yeah. The dominant actor of Ius Gentium was nation or state. So state by state in international arena. Yeah, there is several exception in Ius Gentium that person or non-state actor also accommodated in this principle, but the dominant actor at that time in Roman legal term, Ius Gentium was state and state actor in international relations. So you can see in this picture that the agent of peace absolutely representation of country or government. There is no NGO at the time. There is no governmental organization at that time. But formal diplomat official as a representative from each government to discuss, to negotiate something. So we can imagine the existence of NGO or MNCs like McDonald, like KFC, like what Freeport, like Toyota, like and Shell, or maybe Aramco, or others at that time, because still in a traditional era. But after Westphalia Treaty in 1648, uh, the elite or the king and the prince in Europe recognize and agree, meet the agreement to recognize not only state or government as the subject of international law, but also non-state actor. Non-state actor. Yeah, Really, it is related to the key person in Westphalia Treaty. Yeah, the think tank, the person beyond the treaty was Hugo de Groot or Grotius. Yeah, the picture I mentioned before. Yeah, this is Grotius. This is Grotius. Yeah, this is Mokhtar Kusuma Atmaja. This is Grotius, the think tank person in Westphalia Treaty. Yeah. To understand why Grotius suggests that non-state actor can be legalized as the subject of international law, because Grotius was the lawyers of VOC. What is VOC? VOC means Verenigde Oost-Indisch Company, or MNC, multinational corporation in East India. East India. East India mean all of region in Indonesia today. In Indonesia today. Nah, as a lawyer of VOC or multinational corporation, Grotius as lawyer and also as intellectual suggests that not only a state or government uh, can get the status or legal standing, in international law, but also non-state actor that meet the criteria. So there are many criteria on this. Yeah. So VOC really a company, multinational corporation. The owner of the VOC not only a Dutch people or citizenship holder, but also person from France, UK, German, and also Italy. They join together to create MNCs. The name is VOC. VOC. Uh, because of the financial capacity and human resource um, in VOC, they have what strong and powerful capacity to not only manage a business, overseas business, but also VOC can manage a territory. So if you see that all of Indonesian region today really as heritage from VOC. VOC, after that Dutch and Indonesian independent. So when you in secondary and high school, your maybe your teacher stated that Indonesia occupied by Dutch more than 350 years. Really, not the Dutch government occupy or colonize Indonesia. More than 200 years, Indonesia occupied by VOC or MNCs. Why? Because Netherlands or Dutch at the time not fully recognized as an independent country. Yeah, before 1850, after Spanish uh, what after Spanish occupy the Dutch. After that, there is a Benelux agreement and recognized as independent, fully independent. Although the independence of Netherlands really proclaimed by Prince de Orange in 1602. This is the year when Prince de Orange proclaimed the independence of Netherlands. But more than uh, 100 years not fully recognized. Okay, so after you can understand the surrounding history in Europe, the capacity of the VOC is very strong, maybe stronger than the weak state in Europe at the time because of financial capacity. Suggestion from Grotius to recognize that non-state actor as the subject of international law successfully agreed in this Westphalia Treaty. And this is the birth of uh, modern international law. So as I mentioned before, that Westphalia Treaty is very, very important in international relations studies because under this treaty, the characteristic of a modern country designed and agreed among the European countries. Yeah, uh, this is really fully uh, from the European background. And yeah, why we use this concept? Because, as I mentioned before, because the last World War, the winner was European countries and allies. So the color of the world today, colored by European history and American history. Maybe you can compare from the other historical background. For example, at that time, really, more than seven centuries, not year, Khilafah Turki Osmani conquer and to be the dominant actor at that time in Westphalia Treaty era. But now, uh, it is very little evident that what affair today or what order today influenced by Turkey Osmani. Why? Yeah, because up and down the influence of world politics really happened in the world history. So today the most influential history really European and American history. That conquer not only technology but also ideology and science So Westphalia Treaty, there are several uh, agreement that is very important to be understood. Firstly, in Westphalia Treaty, really the spirit of Westphalia Treaty is institutionalizing peace. Institutionalizing peace. Uh, in bahasa, perdamaian abadi mean institutionalized peace. Institutionalized peace. Not abadi mean abadan in Arabic, no. But the meaning of perdamaian abadi means institutionalized peace. Not what fragile peace. No, maybe after conflict there is peace. After peace, conflict again and again. It is fragile conflict. So the permanent peace or perdamaian abadi means institutionalized peace. To create institutionalized peace, Grotius suggests that it is not only solve the conflict among the countries, but uh, the problem is behind the concept of the what is the countries itself. This very sophisticated question from Grotius. If we operate the old concept of nation as a state before Westphalia, when a state only consists of monoculture, what call as Spain citizens and area was in the old era, all the people who support the Spain culture and use the Spain language and support the Spain's government or kingship system, uh, they and their area, they life, include in Spain territory. Can you imagine if all of the countries in Europe use this concept? Absolutely, time by time, the conflict of boundaries and territory will happen again and again. Why? Because the mobility of the person that support a such or a certain country uh, always again time by time. So, for example, this area in Jakarta, for example, occupy and live many people from Spain. So the Spain government stated that Jakarta is my territory. After years, for example, 10 years, many Spain people go to the other territory, and Dutch or maybe German person or French or uh, Zuki come to Jakarta. Many people live in Jakarta from Zuki, for example. And the Zuki kingship system stated that, oh, Jakarta today is my territory. What happened next? Absolutely, between uh, Spain and Zuki, uh, they get the same claim in Jakarta territory. So there are double claim in one territory. So this conflict will emerge war each other in European areas. And maybe in one time you have many problem in your border or territory. So Grotius suggests a concept that we need a new concept on what is a nation state. So you know that the criteria of a nation state, firstly, you have a people, okay, no problem. After that, you have a government recognized by the people, okay. And the third, you have fixed territory. It's mean you need fixed border. The concept of fixed border emerged in this Westphalia Treaty to stop the conflict among the European countries. So, it is no problem. Maybe your citizens is not only a Spain people, but your citizen maybe originally come from UK, come from Dutch, come from Italy, that enter your territory and recognize your government. It's mean they are all, although they not come from Spain, they are your citizenship holder. So the citizen of Spain is not only originally from Spain. Why? Because all of the people who live in country, yeah, inside the border, it's mean they are your citizen. This is a new concept in Westphalia Treaty. So European country relatively yeah, more peaceful after that, but not 100%. And European country try to create their influence in other country. So there is what dark side of uh, Westphalia Treaty uh, as the opposite of the positive effect of the Westphalia Treaty. So, firstly, Westphalia Treaty as the momentum to establish the concept of modern country because of the criteria of the modern country. And the secondly, Westphalia also made agreement on secularism. What the meaning of secularism? Uh, to spirit the religious power and political power. Okay, the Holy Roman Empire, you don't influence our political power. You stay in your palace, your business in religious affairs, and all of the king in political affair. Yeah, this is the emerge of secularism. So modernity birth in the same time and the same mother with secularism. So you can see in next history that more modern country, relatively more secular one. So if you see more modern country to be more secular one. Yeah, you can go to Las Vegas. You can go to Amsterdam. Yeah, in red light Amsterdam, for example. You can go to Tokyo. You can go to yeah, Paris, for example. More modern country, more secular. Yeah. So because secularism and modernism birth in the same time and the same mother. That is Westphalia Treaty. Westphalia Treaty. Okay, so in Westphalia Treaty, when suggestion from the Grotius about subject of international law from non-state actor recognized in this agreement. So the principle of international law not use Gentium like before, but after Westphalia Treaty, the scientists in international law recognize new principles, what they call as ius intergentis. Ius intergentis. So, international law today refer to ius intergentis, not ius gentium, uh, as legacy from Roman Empire. So the dominant actor today in international law really not dominated by state or government, but there are many rules and international rules or agreement or treaties produced by non-government uh, subject of international law. What is the example? Do you imagine that today the biggest actor in the world diplomacy is United Nations. And United Nations is not a nation state, but international government organization. It is not a government. Or you can see that UNESCO, uh, UN, but UNESCO, ITU, UNHCR, yeah, about the refugee. You can see there are several or many organizations under United Nations, or maybe ICRC. Yeah, the dominant diplomacy today refer to not a country, but refer to international organization. That is the subject of international law, but not government. Yeah, yeah. So today, the dominant actor really non-state. Can you imagine if Indonesia or Bangladesh or United Nations exclude from United Nations, for example? Oh no, I am as a single subject of international law. I am out of United Nations. I don't care about regional organization. I don't care about UNESCO participation. I don't care about. There is no country, a single country challenge like this. Why? Because the subject or the actor of international law today dominated by non-state actor. Non-state actor. Yeah, although the state really still significant actor, yeah, because uh, represent as a representative from their people, but you can see today that how the influence of uh, United Nations as international organization or non-state actor very dominant in the world today. Um, okay, the other scientist, Philip Jessup, popularized the term of transnational law. So, ius gentium to be ius intergentis in Westphalia Treaty, and now international law refer to ius intergentis. Nah, after the last decade, because of the development and new trend in the global relation, what we call it as transnational relation, not international relation. International mean internation. Nation mean government. Okay. Philip Jessup stated that, oh, today is not internation, but today is transnation. The actor is many, various, not only government. So the international relation now gets new characteristic. The name is transnational relation. So the transnational law, uh, he suggests to be changed in new term. The name is transnational law. But yeah, as a concept, it is very good. But international law expert until today still use the international law term, not transnational law. Yeah, yeah. Although the name of the international law still exists today, but really the characteristic of international relation change now as transnational relation. So the actor varies, not only government representative, but also the peoples and the society in the world. Okay. The most important thing in international law, and as the main source of international law, is agreement. If we back to the Westphalia Treaty, what several principles today operate in the world affair, like the concept of international law, the concept of a nation state. We discussed the concept of nation state in the introduction to political science. So I just mentioned several because last semester we discussed it in detail in what is Westphalia Treaty. Uh, Westphalia Treaty to be the principles in international relation today because Westphalia Treaty is an agreement recognized by international law. Once again, that the most important thing in international law is the source of international law. We call it as agreement or treaty. Westphalia Treaty is agreement. And that is the core or the main source of international law. So really international law can exist because of agreement, because of treaty. If there is no treaty recognized by each other or by the parties, there is no international law. So international law consists of, or uh, international law established on the agreement or treaty. Uh, yeah, this is the branches or fields of public international law. Yeah, yeah, this is. I just want to introduce you about several branches of international, public international law. Firstly, about, uh, yeah, last week in detail, I talk about what is the public international law and what is the private international law. Our subject today, we discuss on the public international law. And the meaning of the public international law is slightly different from public law in domestic affair. In domestic affair, public law mean hukum pidana, ya, and private law mean hukum perdata. But in international law, public international law is not only hukum pidana internasional or international criminal law, but there are many or several branches of public international law. So criminal law or hukum pidana in national law only as a part of public international law. There are several branches of international law. Firstly, international human right law, international humanitarian law, international criminal law. That is the origin, pidana, and international environmental law, diplomatic law, international space law, the law of the sea, and the law of war, and so on and so on. Refugee law, for example. I just want to introduce you in this semester for several branches of international law. Firstly, diplomatic law. I will explain several principles in diplomatic law. After that, what is the criminal law, humanitarian law, and also the law of the sea. The law of the sea. This is very important. Yeah. At a glance, I will make you clear what is the difference of several branches of international law. What is international human rights law? Uh, International human right. The problem of human rights is that branch of public international law them that aim at protecting the internationally guaranteed right of individual and group against violation by state. So internationally there is guaranteed right for each people around the world. And sometimes the government or the elite in a country, such a country, they, yeah, create violation to their own people. So international human rights law try to protect, advocate people from violation by their own state. Yeah, you can imagine it. For example, The right for minority, for example. Yeah, maybe religious minority, maybe race minority, maybe cultural minority, maybe aspiration of political minority, and sometimes violated by the dominant actor or the elite in such a country. So, for example, the expression of political aspiration, um, there is no free free choices in political arena. For example, the international human right law try to advocate them. So, human right international human right law try to advocate and protect people from the violation from their own government or own state or own elite. Yeah. So people and the government or the elite. Uh, International human rights organization try to back up the people. Back up the people. Yeah. Next we'll discuss it. I just to make what guideline for you. Secondly, what is international humanitarian law or armed conflict? Yeah. International humanitarian law is a branch of public international law that aims at regulating the conduct of warfare. Yeah, by providing a code of conduct and behavior for armed forces of a state or party to a conflict, and also prohibiting a certain means of warfare. For example, about the means of combat, use of weapon, nuclear weapon. The nuclear treaty to restrict the use of mass destructive weapon,
Yes.
and use of specific weapon that are poisonous and mass destruction, landmine or ranjo landmines. So there are many code of conduct in war. Uh, Both international conflict or maybe in-country conflict between the government uh, army uh, versus rebellion, for example. So international humanitarian law uh, is international law, public international law that operate in wartime. In wartime. Yeah. So you can imagine that in wartime, there are many parties involved in this bloody event. Okay. So uh, international humanitarian law will conduct what is the quote unquote good war. I don't believe it, but we can try. Okay, we will explore next. Next, I introduce you about the international criminal law. Criminal law. It's related to the uh, yeah, criminal activities in war or maybe also in peace situation. You can see this in the web of ICC and ICG, the case of genocide, genocide in Rwanda, for example, or Yugoslavia, or Bosnia, Herzegovina, and so on. Okay. Uh, so criminal law may be related to a person, a criminal person, maybe general, maybe the commander, maybe the president. If the president also has the uh, the high level commander, yeah, the highest level commander. International criminal law has a special court. The name is International Criminal Court. That I introduced you last week. And number four, the law of the sea. The law of the sea. Yeah, the law of the sea is very important for maritime and archipelago countries because it determines our territory and our right to explore a part of the sea. The law of the sea referred to UNCLOS 3 in 1983, and Indonesia is very concerned about this. We will explore this next. And also, I not mentioned here, diplomatic law. Diplomatic law. I will introduce you for many principle in diplomatic law next, because it is very important for international student. Okay, I think this is all my presentation today. And maybe one of you any question?
Um, can I ask, sir? I have a question, sir.
Yes.
Sir, my question is, who monitors this international law or transnational law or these things?
Yes.
This is the first question, and second question is, if it's UN or International Criminal Court or like these types of organization, then we can see that big countries like USA, China, or Russia, or even some European countries, French or England, they sometimes tend to not abide, they don't abide by these rules.
Yeah.
So they are making the law, and at the same time, when it goes against them, they don't abide those. For an example, I can say recently in USA, they sanctioned the prosecutor of International Criminal Court,
Mm,
the prosecutor of International Criminal Court, just because he, yeah, he raised the boys against US that they have committed some sort of
mm,
mishap in other countries, so they must be in uh, they must be accountable. But the US government itself sanctioned International Criminal Court's prosecutor. So
mm.
they are the people, they are creating the law, but they don't want to abide those. So actually, who are the real monitorer, like
Yeah.
who can make them follow these rules? This is my question,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, thank you, Asaki. The most crucial problem in international law is about how to uh, make all of international member obey the treaty. So who as the monitor is international law? Firstly, there is the principle that pacta sunt servanda. Pacta sunt servanda means the treaty only uh, as a legal binding for the parties. So the monitors come from the parties. You say ICC. ICC really established or initiated not by United Nations. So the position of ICC is very different from ICJ, International Court of Justice. ICC fully initiated by the countries, not under the United Nations. So the process of ICC really uh, initiated and monitored by the country involved or as a parties in ICC. unfortunately, Indonesia not join in ICC because there is the problem of human right for several general in Indonesia related to Timor-Leste. There is a human right problem like Jenderal Wiranto, Prabowo, and there are four general from Indonesia uh, get letter from ICC to yeah to be catch or detained. But yeah, because of Indonesia not as a parties in ICC, so Indonesia not recognize this letter. So Indonesia disobey this international suggestion. So what happened in ICC? ICC really now recognize more than 130 countries, but several countries like Indonesia not recognize. Several country and dominant actor like United Nations or Israel, for example, that get many problem there related to Palestine people, for example, they don't recognize. They don't recognize. So, yeah, the main problem here is about the effectiveness of the international treaty. For example, the law of the sea, for example. ASEAN countries recognize the law of the sea. So all ASEAN countries recognize the territory and the regime of the law of the sea. Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, all recognize this principle. But United Nations not fully recognize. So many warship, many what military aircraft from United Nations come to Indonesian territory, quote unquote, because Indonesia and ASEAN countries recognize fully about the law of the sea as their own territory, but the other countries, European country and United Nations, not recognize that that is your territory because this is international territory. So there are many differences here. Many differences. So, okay, Indonesia and ASEAN countries recognize that is your territory, but I am not recognized fully about the law of the sea. Why not? Why there is term fully? Because when you recognize an international treaty as international law, when you do ratification in your country, maybe you make ratification not full chapter, but there are many exceptional article, and it is open in international law. So, for example, China recognized the law of the sea, but from 100 article China only recognize, for example, 60 article. It is okay in the international law. So maybe you will say that why this country disobey the international relation. Yeah, disobey in your perspective or in your country recognition or in your country ratification principle. But in my country, I don't have legal binding in this chapter because I don't recognize fully this international treaty. So it is very, maybe tricky and it's very difficult to say that you are fully disobey because you need many documents. Firstly, uh, did the country recognize the international agreement fully? Or what principle ratified by the country so we can say that you disobey. Yeah. So be careful about this and why there is a different understanding and there is intellectual lack between opinion in mass media and opinion in front of the judge. For example, ICC, can you as you see. Why in media will justify that such country disobey international law. But in front of the judge, there is the principle pacta sunt servanda. What I disobey? I don't agree. I not read. We don't ratify the principle. So we don't break any international law because I not ratified the principle. I We don't recognize the principle. It is very open, and so intellectual discourse is very different from opinion discourse in mass media. Uh, so we are as international students should uh, step by step try to understand about this. Uh, and yeah, this is the weakness of international law, that the dominant actor in the world sometime out of out of punishment uh, from international treaty, because of the influential power in international law. Uh, yeah, you can see what did by United Nations in the world. Maybe you disagree about many American affair in other country, but why the United Nations only not do anything to the United States, for example? Yeah, this is the reality, that the the other side of international law is uh, the weakness position to reach or to punish the dominant actor in the world politic. I think this is my explanation. Okay. Any other question?
Thank you, sir. It is
Yeah.
clear.
Okay, student. Thank you very much with your you joining class today, and it is open for you to ask something by chatting in WA. It is open for you, and I hope you can listen to this recording video again in your my class. Yeah, to make more clear about what we talked today. Thank you very much. And oh yeah, if next week we will create offline class, please raise your hand. How many people want to come? Yeah, absolutely. I say okay, no. Okay. How many people want to join the class? One, two, three, four. Only four people. Okay. Okay. Oh, five. Five, six. Okay. Five, six, seven. Seven people join. Yeah. Yeah, we will discuss it again in the WA group, and we hope stay healthy and be happy. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi warahmatullahi
warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Yo, sir.